All right, good afternoon. It's coming up on 4 o'clock here. Meteorologist Evan Chickfair here with 3340. I just thought I would do kind of an impromptu update. Coming up at 4, instead of first news at 4, we've got a town hall session. So I'd invite you to watch that, take a look at that here on our newscast. And because we don't have weather, it's kind of a special segment. I thought we would just hop on here with it being a loud afternoon. You have kids, if you're just running out and about, you're probably hearing this thunder and like, the heck is going on? Look at the amount of lightning strikes we've had here in the last 10 minutes on this static radar alone. Sure, this includes those storms over in Rome, Georgia, Cedartown, and also over across the state line in Mississippi. However, we do have one warning, and we've had a couple severe thunderstorm warnings this afternoon. Understand, almost any summer thunderstorm has the potential to become severe. That doesn't make it any better. It just is kind of a fact of summer here. Imagine heat as an energy source, and we have plenty of that here at this time. So let's start with the radar view here. I'm going to come on into this storm that's over in St. Clair County. Let's go to the 3D look here and see what this storm has going on. And again, these storms are fairly tall in nature, and that's why we get these warnings, because you get these cloud tops, these thunderstorms, you get up to 30,000 feet. So imagine that. You're over in Locust Fork in Hayden, and you have a thunderstorm aloft that's hitting 30,000 feet. Okay, you think about it, that's where, commercial airliners, they fly. Anything that develops in the cloud, that updraft is pretty strong. So when the storm ultimately collapses or has that downdraft, everything way up in the atmosphere, all that volume has to come to the surface. So when you see these high cloud top thunderstorms, that's how you know they can pack a wallop. You can see here too, this little core right within here. That's probably really heavy rain. I haven't seen any reports of hail. Doesn't mean that there's not. A lot of these will have very small hail with them. But again, that's kind of what we're looking at here this afternoon as we move forward. So we'll go back to just basic reflectivity here. I just think the 3D view is cool. Let's hop on over to northern Tuscaloosa County here. So this is, again, a look at what is a very rural part of Tuscaloosa County, but this would be 82 and 43, in between that range. So if you're near Samantha, Ecola, Huntington Place, north of Flatwoods, Wyndham Springs, kind of right in the thick of things here. I'll try to get that Wyndham Springs camera up here in just a moment so that we can get a visual on this. But understand the biggest threat with these is more than likely going to be lightning, which sounds silly. I understand lightning, you think, well, that's not a severe parameter, but it's something that can really, really impact people when they're outside. So I do want to just caution you if you're going to be out and about. I got two kids. They were outside earlier. We heard the thunder, lightning. They had to come on in. Did I want them to play outside? Absolutely. It helps get their yayas out. But, lightning, 71, 70 strikes within this little area here. And I'm going to put this in motion over the last hour, okay? And you'll see these aren't, yes, there's a bit of a west to east movement, but they're doing what's called back building. So notice that cell right up here in northwestern Tuscaloosa County. Notice how this back builds. There's nothing here, and then boom, the cell back builds. Similarly, this is moving away from Buell. However, the cell back builds. So it's very tough to track these. These tend to bubble up, if you will. You put a pot of water on a stove and you start to see kind of the idea of convection in the atmosphere. Bubble here, bubble there. There's not a ton of steering in the mid-levels. Our winds are pretty light this time of year in that part of the atmosphere. And so you'll get this bubbling effect. Storms will redevelop or intensify on their own outflow boundaries, and that can make them very tough to peg. Over here in Pickens County, again, none of these right now are severe that I'm showing you on the map, but this is going to be coming across the state line. We'll switch to the Columbus radar. Something else to watch here, which is pretty cool. This is a outflow boundary. And you'll see these from time to time. This is actually the cool air from other storms. And as this cool air shoots out and ahead, you'll get the condensation of sometimes very low clouds. And this can often turn into additional thunderstorms. So we sometimes track outflow boundaries. So beware there in central Pickens County. We could see some development within the next hour or so. I would not be surprised. But again, kind of the full scope here. No one in Alabama is rain-free, storm-free, or guaranteed that this afternoon. So far, the most active area has been north of I-20, along I-22. But again, you're seeing here north of Lake Tuscaloosa, north of the Warrior River, kind of a bullseye of thunderstorm activity. And then over here in Blount County, again, some of these returns just been quite significant. I'm going to put this back. I'm going to do one more loop so you guys can see this here. Again, this is moving from the general west direction off to the east. And as of now, it looks like it may have dropped below, at least just looking here on radar, perhaps below any sort of severe limits. But we'll keep watching it. This might be a better view here. This is from the high top radar. And we'll put it back on no lapse here. But this is I believe also an aerial flood advisory, because another issue you'll run into with these storms is they don't move very fast. I showed you the bubbling nature. They just kind of meander about. So you'll be under one of these and, you'll get an inch of rain, and your neighbor down the street who just, put sod in his yard, he won't get anything. So these can be very fickle, very tough to pinpoint. But if you are in Blount County, if you're along 278, if 31 as you branch off to the north and east here, away from I-65, closer to Hanceville, you got some pretty good rain. So we'll keep watching this here. I'm going to draw one more vertical slice here to kind of give an idea of what we're looking at within this particular thunderstorm. And you'll see once again, we look at these from a perspective of how tall are they. Here's your 30,000 foot line. And a lot of this storm, the most dense reflectivity, at least picked up on radar, is a little bit below about 20,000 feet. But you see these bullseyes, or these higher reflectivity values, that could be indicative of very heavy rain. That could be a small hail core. That's why these things can be tough to warn. They'll pulse up really quickly. They'll get strong. All of a sudden, you have this incredible updraft, so the storm bubbles up, bubbles up, bubbles up. And then at some point, the updraft cannot hold the thunderstorm anymore. Think of it as, you put all this air in a balloon, eventually it's going to reach its breaking point. Instead of popping, imagine letting all the air out of the balloon at once. A lot of times what these thunderstorms will do, they'll just, everything will come out at once. You have a heavy downpour, you'll have gusty winds, and that's your biggest threat with anything coming through today. So again, a look at the radar view, pretty active here across central Alabama. Most of these will stay below severe limits, but again, this is a much higher volume of lightning than anything that we've had here so far this week. So I would absolutely, just caution you against being outside. This is exactly the type of setup here when we talk about that out of the blue lightning, and that's or bolt from the blue, if you will. That is the type of lightning where you might see blue sky overhead, and you might hear thunder, but you're thinking, all right, there's blue sky, no concern here. This is the type of afternoon where you have these cloud-to-ground strikes, and they will often strike out ahead of the parent thunderstorm, out ahead of where the actual thunderstorm is, and that can be very dangerous to folks working outside. And that's why we caution everyone, thunder roars, go indoors. It sounds like we're beating, a dead horse here, but it is very important, and it's something that I take very seriously. So again, here looking at the radar, we have one severe thunderstorm warning that includes Aniana, that includes pretty much all of Blount County. In fact, I'd say everywhere in Blount County minus a little sliver here is included within this warning. I'll zoom back in here so you guys can get a better look. But the severe thunderstorm warning goes until 4:30. Again, the time right now is 4:04. If you're just now watching or popping this up, we don't have a 4 o'clock typical newscast. We have a town hall happening on ABC 3340. So if you're wanting weather, I'll try to keep this going for a little while, just to give you all updates on what's happening, what to expect, and what we'll see here as we go throughout the evening. So again, thunderstorms rolling across central Alabama. I'm sure you probably heard them, whether you're driving about or you're just trying to enjoy a nice summer afternoon outside. We have some colder air aloft today in the mid-levels, and that colder air aloft, bigger difference in temperature between the base of the cloud and those temperatures aloft, it creates a charge difference. And you can, a lot of times with that colder air in place above the surface, get more lightning strikes. So I don't expect many of these storms to remain at severe limits or to continue at severe limits this afternoon, but it's certainly a possibility. So we will watch this, and coming up on the news at 5 o'clock here on 3340, we will have a closer look at this. I want one more look here at these cells. And I mentioned, for those of you just joining in, they're doing what's called back building. And essentially what that is the storm motion is from west to east, but these storms are building back to the west. So they're not actually moving west. They're building back to the west because there's an outflow boundary there, and it gets all sorts of technical, but that's why these are hard to track. They're not moving fast, and there's a lot of lightning. So that's kind of the synopsis of what's happening here this afternoon. So let's go to our future view product here. I want to head to Friday morning, and we're going to drag this forward as we go through the morning, early afternoon. We're not expecting much in the way of rain the first half of the day. Our story has kind of been the fact that we're going to have this very rare, not typical type of a cool front here. We don't get fronts too often this time of year. It's too warm. Our air mass and our the region is encompassed and say dominated by this humid subtropical sort of climate for this time of year. And it's very tough for the jet stream to have a trough come in, but we're going to see that here. A weak frontal boundary is going to push towards the coast. It's going to mean a couple things. It's going to increase our rain chances on Friday afternoon. Should be pretty good coverage. And this will go through the afternoon, evening, all the way up until, past 10, 11 o'clock here, because you have an extra lifting mechanism in place. So look for Friday afternoon, evening to be a very wet one, potentially in spots as this pushes towards the coast. But this will push south of here. So that's going to set us up for something interesting as we roll into the weekend. So that's kind of a look at Friday. I want to go to the upper air look here. I love upper air maps. They are so telling of what is going to happen overall. So I'm going to clear this off, and I'm just going to kind of telestrate this. So this is picking up where I just left off. This is Friday at 7 o'clock. So what do we have here? If you follow weather at all, something you might know about is you've got ridges, okay? And typically under a ridge, this is where your high is and your heat. Then you've got long wave troughs, okay? This is typically where you have rain, precipitation, but also cooler air. So keep that in mind as I play this forward, because this is a big tell of our weather pattern. So that strong upper level high that was responsible for the heat much of the week across the southeast regresses back here. So this is Saturday afternoon. Where is this? Now the ridge is over here, desert southwest. Look at this. Long wave trough. These colors represent heights. Where you see the orange, those are higher atmospheric heights. Think of things that are warm. When your tires are warm, the pressure is greater. Warm air takes up more space. When bridges, concrete, asphalt heat up, they expand. That's why on the roadways, there's cracks in between to account for that fluctuation. The atmosphere is exactly the same. Warmer air beneath there causes the atmosphere to expand and have higher heights. So where we see these oranges, that's a good indicator that there's warm air beneath there, and it's expanded, it's pushing up on the atmosphere. And where you have the lack of color, that typically signifies the air beneath there's not as warm. And that's going to be exactly the case here as we head towards the weekend. So let's move this ahead even more, keeping in mind that we've got this long wave trough over the eastern half of the country, and it gets even more pronounced, honestly. This is one of the more noticeable setups that we've had here this summer. Again, I mean, look at this. This entire eastern half of the country here, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley. I mean, this is a nice break from summer heat. There's your high again. That's very common. You have both an elevation difference here. You also have just the desert southwest, the overall climate there. But that's where that upper air high is going to stay. And for us, that means cooler temperatures. Gotta love it. I'll show you what those temperatures could look like here. And even extending into Monday of next week, we are right in between two ridges. So you got this one smack over Albuquerque, and then you got your Bermuda High, that semi-permeable or semi-permanent high pressure that's over the Atlantic. And we are right in between the two where a trough exists. And again, this comes with other byproducts as well, but cooler air, it's a nice plus. So, all right, let's go to the European future view here. And again, what this is going to show is that low, and this is what we call a cool air wedging, okay? Why do we call it that, or a cool air damming? Because essentially up here, and I'm gonna clear some of this off here just so it's not as clunky, but we often have some cooler air that exists right about here. Here's the Appalachian Mountains. You got cool air here. Well, guess what? The air out here is also cool, okay? So now you've got air coming in off the Atlantic away from the Gulf Stream. It's pushed down to the south. Here's your mountains, okay? There's my drawing of the mountains. And that cooler air is forced further to the south and further to the west. Now the strength of a wedge or a cool air damming depends on the features in play, okay? So notice this surface low, okay? The circulation around it enhances that northeasterly flow. That is going to really help to bring in that cooler air. Also, you have a high over the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, which will also aid in kind of channeling that cooler air. So you got a couple circulations in play here that are going to help with bringing in and maintaining this cooler air mass. Now, something else to keep in mind, what is over the Atlantic? What is, obviously it's body of water. So you also have this moisture fetch that's coming across, and that can sometimes lead to more cloud cover and better rain chances. So I look for Saturday to be a wet afternoon. You know, going into Sunday, the rain chances are very tricky with these sort of setups because it's a cooler air mass, so it doesn't hold quite as much water, but with that in mind, it's still a moisture-laden, albeit cooler, body of air that's going to be moving in this general direction here. And I think in addition to cooler temperatures, we'll have more cloud cover, we'll have better rain chances. And for those of you who've had crunchy grass, sad-looking plants, this would be a great thing. A break from the heat, but also a good soaking of rain here. If you don't get it Saturday, you might get it Sunday. If you get it Friday, you might not get it Saturday. It's kind of one of those, but coverage is pretty good here in the extended forecast. And if I push this ahead here into early next week, there's my little explainer on where the Appalachian Mountains are. You know, this is our going setup here, and we're likely to see a couple days where our rain chances maintain in place, but also several days where our temperatures are a little bit more bearable. So I'm going to go now to the European model. This is going to look at temperatures. We're going to go Sunday through Wednesday of next week. So this is at 3 o'clock on Sunday. Now I understand it probably won't be 72 for a high in Atlanta or 80 for a high in Birmingham. This is looking at 3 o'clock. And what I'm trying to indicate here is just the decrease in our heat levels. You look at where the temperatures are warmer. It's going to be the Mississippi Delta and points to the west, closer to that upper high that we talked about. As we roll into Monday and even, you know, early on next week, we're going to stick with that wedge in place. Look at this. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, any given day this past week at 2 in the afternoon, we were 94, 95, heat index of 102, 104. Completely different next week. And yes, there's going to be rain and clouds in place, but it's in general a much cooler body of air that'll be here. And there will be days where temperatures may struggle to get out of the 70s into the middle 80s. So overnight lows will be another thing. If you're an early riser, you've probably noticed, especially if you wear glasses. I wear glasses sometimes, and you walk outside, it's instant, you know, 77 degrees, it's muggy, and you get that condensation immediately on there. The temperatures are going to be a little bit lower. We have not had lows in the 60s in quite some time. I think our lows will be, you know, 67 to about 72 for a couple days next week. Small difference. You might not notice it, but if you go outside every morning, it might be something you catch on to. Again, Tuesday afternoon, where is your heat? Where are the high heat levels? Over here. That's where that ridge is. Remember, troughing here. And look at this, all the way down Dothan, Mobile. I mean, again, this is one model, but look at these 80s. This is wonderful. Charlotte, 69, you kidding me? 4 in the afternoon, 5 in the afternoon. So again, this is not the exact numbers that we'll probably see, but it is a very good indicator of what is on the way, even into Wednesday. I mean, you can clearly see the impacts of your ridge and your trough. Cool air, hot. So, you know, I love drawing stuff on the map. So that's kind of our going forecast here. I want to hop back over to the radar again. If you're watching, time now is 4:15. Let's get an update on storms here in central Alabama. So we'll start over here since we got the Columbus radar already selected. This is Pickens County. There's 82. If you're traveling from Gordo, really to the state line, just shy of Columbus, no thunderstorms there at the moment, but you got a pretty good one here in extreme northeastern Tuscaloosa County. I'm going to take this lapse off. 171 as you go up towards southern Fayette County here, just to the west of Concord. You're looking at, you know, just an incredible amount of lightning with this. And, you know, as I mentioned, that's going to be the biggest threat this afternoon. Lightning's not a parameter that we assess for severe weather. So it's you won't get a warning for it, but it'll get your attention. Lightning's scary. It's not pleasant to go through. Kid, adult, I don't care who you are. But that'll be the biggest byproduct of thunderstorms this evening. We got some more rain. I'm going to switch over to Birmingham now as we head further to the east. So here's the Birmingham Metro. This is extreme eastern Tuscaloosa County. There's the Warrior River right there. There's Brookwood just to the south. Again, the general motion very slowly is a meandering easterly track. Same deal right here. These cells that are over near McCalla, just south of the 459 I-2059 split, these are going to drift off to the east. And similarly over here on the Shelby County, Talladega County line, you've got a cluster of storms that are really extending down to Wilsonville and all the way up towards the southern part of Logan Martin. And these will continue to drift off to the east. Northern, just to the north of Lineville, Ashland, and Clay County. Again, you got this little bullseye here near Union. Heavy rain there. I-20, pretty clear, which is good. You know, if you're going from Fruithurst, Heflin, all the way over to Pell City, heck, take it all the way to Irondale. You look pretty good, at least for the time being. They've allowed that severe thunderstorm warning to expire. But, however, aerial flood advisory, something that sometimes goes, you know, under noticed or unnoticed, I should say. I don't know the best way. People a lot of times ignore that. When you have an aerial flood advisory, what you're looking for is downtown areas with a lot of infrastructure, a lot of asphalt, basically a non-porous surface, and there's nowhere for the water to go. So, you know, you imagine like in a city, okay, the roads are not going to absorb the water very readily. And so you'll have ponding in areas. If you live in one of these spots, you typically know it. Every time it rains, it's going to become a bit of a mess, and the roads can be just that. So just be aware of that. Hayden, Locust Fork, Cleveland, all the way up just to the west of Aniana. And this is really right up to the Coleman and Blount County line there is where some of the heaviest rain just fell. But that has kind of bottomed out. So again, I hopped on here because our 4 o'clock newscast is Town Hall. It's on there right now being hosted. We will have an update coming up here at 5 o'clock with anything, any updates to the forecast. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I hope you guys are having a good Thursday afternoon. Prepared for the drier weather, drier weather. The cooler weather, as we head into the weekend, we'll have some rain with it, but mid-80s, I gotta tell you, I'll sign up for that here in August, and my lawn will absolutely sign up for the additional rain. So y'all have a great afternoon. We'll see you at 5.